Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Newly formed Tropical Storm Erin could end up being the first major hurricane of the Atlantic season. I'll explain.
A neighborhood alert. A fox attacks two people in the same area. How residents can protect themselves, their families, and their pets.
And breaking news, crime-fighting effort. President Trump places the Washington, D.C. Police Department under federal control, why some object to the move.
Tropical Storm Erin has formed in the Atlantic. Good afternoon to you on this Monday. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. It is forecast to become a major hurricane, the first one of the Atlantic season. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at that track. Elizabeth.
And we've been watching the system for several days. It's off the coast of Africa right now, so a long way from land. I mean, it's close to Africa, but it's of course headed across the Atlantic, and it will have a very long trip. It is moving west at 20 miles per hour. Winds right now at 45 miles per hour, but it is going to steadily increase in strength as it moves across the Atlantic. By Wednesday, it's likely to be a hurricane. It'll be the first hurricane of the Atlantic season. And by Saturday, it could be a Category 3 storm with winds at 115 miles per hour. At that point, it's not likely to be close to land. And so, again, we have a long time to watch this system. I'm going to show you some of the computer models and what the pattern will be as it gets closer to the United States, and why we're not necessarily expecting this to be a big deal for us, but it is way too early really to make any sort of an assumption. What we're looking at this afternoon is some scattered showers, just a little bit of light rain starting to pop up in a few places. We're looking at, of course, a trough that's close to the coast. That's going to help to bring us more showers as we get through the day today. 60% between 4 and 8 p.m., so we're looking at a little better chance of some showers rolling in. We also have a low risk for flooding. That flooding risk does cover the entire viewing area, but only a few pockets are likely to see the rainfall heavy enough to produce some flooding. But we do have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and we'll likely see some heavy downpours. It will remain fairly cloudy through the day, so that's going to keep our temperatures down. Highs will be in the low 80s. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about Tropical Storm Erin and where it could be headed in the next couple of weeks.
Two people were injured in fox attacks in Moore County this morning. It happened near Midway Road in Aberdeen around 8 a.m., and officials are now looking into whether the fox was rabid. WRAL's Carly Haynes is live in Aberdeen right now. And Carly, law enforcement saw that fox and its strange behavior.
And we talked with Aberdeen police just now about what they witnessed. They said that it started when a woman was leaving her house to go for a walk when she heard a strange noise. So she checked underneath a car, and that's when a fox bolted out. Now, the fox bit her on the leg and the hand as she was trying to get it off of her. The animal was acting strangely when police arrived. Police say it was chewing on a tire, and before they could stop the animal, it ran off into the woods. And while officers were still on that scene, they got a call about another fox attack just a street over, where a 77-year-old man reported a fox charged at him and bit him on the leg. Now, both of those people have been taken to a hospital where they're beginning a shot series, which is done beforehand, before the fox is tested for rabies, just in case they might need to be treated for it. The fox is now dead, and that fox has been taken to Raleigh for the state lab to be tested for rabies. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in Aberdeen.
Carly, thank you. More tests need to be completed before Florida authorities are certain a body found over the weekend belongs to a missing Fuquay Varina man. Family members say Giovanni Pelletier was visiting family in the Orlando area when he vanished. The sheriff says the medical examiner's preliminary autopsy did not notice any visible signs of foul play or trauma. The retention pond where the body was found is just off the interstate south of the Tampa-St. Pete area. Deputies responded to the pond on Friday after family members found the body near the edge of the water. The sheriff says law enforcement did previously search the same area. Pelletier was last seen on August 1st in Mims, Florida. Additional tests, including a toxicology test, are being done to determine the identity of the person who was found and cause of death.
We now know who will take over as the new sheriff of Cumberland County. The position became available when Sheriff Ennis Wright retired back in June. WRAL's Ken Smith is here now with the new information and the new head of the sheriff's office. Ken?
Yeah, Jeff, Sheriff Ennis Wright led the department for the last several years. Of course, he was named to that position after the retirement of Sheriff Moose Butler and then reelected in 2022. He had served the department for nearly 30 years, 23 of which was as Sheriff Moose Butler's right-hand man. Well, the newly minted interim sheriff is Major Jonathan Morgan, who addressed the board after he was named to the top spot.
Growing up in a small rural community, my family taught me the importance of helping others, was assisting neighbors on their farms or lending a hand without being asked. I learned that service is not something you be called to, it's something you live.
Well, we should note Major Morgan had the full support of retired Sheriff Ennis Wright. The soon-to-be Sheriff Morgan will serve out the remaining term of former Sheriff Ennis Wright until December of next year, at which point Sheriff Morgan, which he'll be known at that point, will decide if he will run for the post.
Ken, thank you. State Highway Patrol is investigating after a person was hit and killed on I-95. Troopers say it happened near Benson early yesterday morning. The person was hit by a commercial vehicle. The driver is not facing charges. The name of the person who died has not yet been released. We're working to learn why the person hit was walking on the interstate in the first place. A woman faces charges after a motorcyclist died in a crash in Raleigh. Police say Cynthia Lucas was driving on Yonkers Road Saturday night when she turned in front of the motorcyclist. The rider, Lewin Stewart Jr., crashed and died at the scene. Police say Lucas told them she did not see the motorcycle. She is charged with failure to yield, unsafe movement, and misdemeanor death by vehicle.
Breaking news this noon. As expected, President Donald Trump has placed the Washington, D.C. Police Department under federal control. The unprecedented move allows him to deploy the National Guard to remove homeless people from the city. Amy Kiley reports the move is being met with objections.
If the priority is to show force in an American city, we know he can do that here. But it won't be because there's a spike in crime.
President Donald Trump says he's unveiling a plan for Washington, D.C. today. It follows his threats to assert more federal control over the nation's capital.
We've got to get the mayor to run this city properly. This city has to be run. You know, I have the right to take it over.
Trump says he wants to remove homeless people from the city and find them other places to stay. Homelessness is up across the country, with 770,000 people experiencing it last year. That's an 18% increase from 2023. But advocates say removing homeless people makes the problem worse by marginalizing them more. Meanwhile,
I think it's a disgrace that tourists and visitors come to Washington, D.C. and they don't feel safe.
Trump says he wants to reduce crime in Washington. A source says he's sending FBI agents on patrol with local officers. He can take over the district police force in certain emergencies, though it's unclear if he'll try that. He also controls its National Guard. Records show crime in D.C. is down sharply year over year, but a former DOJ staffer was assaulted there recently.
It seems to be that Democratic cities get sort of called out. People that are friends of the president get special treatment. All of a sudden, federal forces are called on to police the entire city.
That was Amy Kiley reporting, and D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Force says the assault was part of an attempted carjacking. It says law enforcement intervened and thwarted that attempt, and 2 teen suspects have been arrested.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, more on the president's announcement from the White House, where you are looking live this afternoon. Surrounded by administration officials, he compared crime statistics to other cities around the world, including Bogota, Colombia, and Mexico City. Take a listen.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
And President Trump also ordered the National Guard to deploy to the nation's capital to combat what he said was a wave of lawlessness, despite statistics showing that violent crime hit a 30-year low last year.
Michelle, thank you. People in need of a passport are getting some much needed help thanks to an event in Johnston County. The U.S. State Department is hosting special passport acceptance fairs more frequently across the state. Today's is at Cleveland High School, but the appointments are all gone. These events are designed for first-time passport holders to get a passport book and or a passport card, which are both Real ID compliant. So if you're not able to get an appointment at the DMV to get a Real ID for upcoming travel, a passport is an alternative. Go to WRAL.com to see where you can go without an appointment if you need help with processing paperwork for your passport.
Next at noon, a wild chase, even by LA standards. How carjackers got control of several vehicles, including a big rig on California highways.
Also, help wanted. The plan for Customs Enforcement to hire thousands more deportation agents. And how many have already signed up?
Plus, Apex sinkhole, the update expected today for a roadblock that could take months to fix.
Coming up next, sea storms moving in with WRAL's exclusive Dual Doppler 5000, sponsored by the WRAL Weather app. Download now for live radar.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, an update to that Avalon Pier shooting at Kill Devil Hills. We have learned this afternoon that a suspect has been indicted. The Adair County grand jury indicted Henry Lee Hargis this morning on one count of first-degree murder in the death of Zane Hughes. This is him right here. One count of assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, and the shooting death of another 15-year-old bystander. They say his next court date for the defendant will be October 13th.
Targeted and deliberate. That's how the CDC classifies a deadly shooting that ended with the death of a police officer. Police say the shooter is Patrick Joseph White. He expressed anti-vax sentiments and believed the COVID-19 vaccine is what made him sick. Investigators say White shot Officer David Rose as he responded to the gunfire at the CDC. The married father of two with one on the way would have made 1 year on the job next month. The gunman was found dead from a gunshot wound, but it's unclear if it came from officers or if he shot himself. A search continues for two people who led officers on several chases through California.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the driver said, I want nothing to do with this, spare my life. Now a stolen semi.
And this dramatic high-speed chase started with a carjacking north of Los Angeles. Two people took off in a stolen truck, and at one point they drove the wrong side of the freeway and then stopped a semi-truck and forced that driver out of the vehicle. The chase continued through downtown, drivers ditching that semi for a pickup truck then. Finally, the assailants ditched that truck and took off in a fourth vehicle. No one was seriously hurt.
In Silicon Valley, many companies hire talent from other countries using H-1B visas. But in a few weeks, people on H-1Bs and other non-immigrant visas will be required to attend in-person interviews in their home countries to renew those visas. Alyssa Gord breaks down the changes.
The Department of State had announced several changes to the visa application process.
San Jose attorney Audrea Golding, who is a partner at an immigration law practice, says the latest change from the State Department means most people on non-immigrant visas like H-1Bs can no longer use the popular program that allowed them to skip in-person consulate interviews to get their visas renewed.
Now the requirement will be that the person goes typically back to their home country to apply for that visa.
This is one of many steps the State Department has taken to increase scrutiny on visa programs, often citing national security concerns.
This is going to entail a delay in their processing. It can be costly because they may be stuck, for example, in India or China, and they won't be able to get back to work.
University of San Francisco professor Bill Hing says this will be an especially big challenge for visa holders whose home countries are far away.
It's going to be a problem for the Bay Area, especially because Silicon Valley and other big businesses in San Francisco and the Bay Area rely very heavily on H-1Bs.
According to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, California has more H-1B recipients than any other state at 61,000. And of the top 10 companies sponsoring H-1B visas, Bay Area-based Meta, Apple, and Google are ranked 4, 5, and 6.
Right now, I think we're already seeing some indication that there will be a backlog of visa appointments.
Golding expects a surge of in-person appointments at consulates. She says planning ahead will be key, as getting appointments around the holidays will be particularly difficult.
That was Alyssa Gord reporting. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is now hiring people over 40. Homeland Security says it needs thousands more deportation agents. So it's removing previous age restrictions and opening up its doors to applicants of all ages, including seniors. Officials say 80,000 people have already signed up. Congress recently gave the agency nearly $30 billion to expand.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we are following some breaking news out of Pittsburgh, where an explosion has been reported at a steel plant. This is a live look right now over the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant. Multiple people have been injured. Some are even still unaccounted for. Emergency crews are on the scene there right now. They're saying multiple injuries. Again, multiple medical helicopters have been called to that scene. Officials confirm crews were also searching for people who may be trapped underneath rubble there. A mass casualty incident has been declared to allow for additional EMS resources from across the region to respond. This is a breaking news story right now. As soon as we have any more information, we'll bring it to you from the Live Center.
The first hurricane of the 2025 season likely will form sometime this week, but it's off the coast of Africa right now. How long would that take to move across the Atlantic, and why are we talking about it already? Meteorologist Chris Michaels answers that in today's Ask the Meteorologist.
So we know this system is quite a ways away, and systems that form in this part of the world are pretty common this time of year. And there's our storm of interest at spinning off the west coast of Africa. Even still, it's more than 3,000 miles away from the North Carolina coastline. So why bother talking about it? Well, it's getting a lot of chatter on social media. Here's what we know about it right now. It's likely to become the first hurricane of the Atlantic season somewhere in the Atlantic this week. It's not likely to affect your beach plans this weekend, and I'll show you why in a little bit. We just don't know where exactly it's going to be 10 plus days from now because, well, that's how long it takes for these storms to move from the west coast of Africa across the Atlantic. This is according to a study done by Florida State University. So here's what we've got going on this week. High pressure to the north will guide it east to west across the Atlantic. And then what we can hope for is a trough or a front over the east coast of the United States to take this storm and push it away from U.S. soil next week. Again, these are the trends we're going to be following on all WRAL platforms as we go not just through the week, but the rest of hurricane season.
Okay, so 10 plus days. Not everybody's thinking, where am I going to be in 10 days? Do I have a trip? Am I going, that's why we talk about it.
Yeah, so 10 days actually, gets us maybe to the middle of next week. Right. And right now in a few minutes, I'm going to show you where it could be at that point. And it does not look like it's making landfall anywhere in 10 plus days. So we'll dig deep into that. Take a look at Dual Doppler 5000 radar right now. We're starting to see the showers really pick up in coverage across the area. Not so much in intensity, but they're starting to pop up in a lot of places in the northern part of Orange County, northern Durham County, over here across Person County, Franklin County seeing some showers. We'll head east, seeing a number of those there in Edgecombe County as well. So some rain popping up across the region. We'll likely have some of these showers coming down pretty heavily. We have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, so some heavy downpours are likely. Now, this morning when we were taking a look at Futurecast, it was pretty sparse. It looks a little bit more interesting in terms of the coverage, especially as we get closer to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Some pretty good coverage for our southern counties, even around the Triangle area and over toward Rocky Mount and Wilson, really filling in between 6 and 7 o'clock. So I think a lot of us will end up seeing some rain. A few of us will see rain heavy enough to produce a little bit of flooding. So we'll be on the lookout for that. The flood risk is on the low end, but it does cover the entire viewing area. So anybody could see it, but I want to point out that everybody won't see it. Take a look at these dark clouds here in Durham. It looks like right now, excuse me, we don't have any rain falling currently, but boy, those are some menacing looking clouds, aren't they? 82 is our temperature and our dew point 73. Much different from what we saw yesterday where we had a nice dry air mass, a nice low dew point. It really feels like August out there now. Temperatures are not likely to climb too high as we have showers and thunderstorms that will develop. We're looking at temperatures in the low to mid 80s. Now, this afternoon, it's going to feel like mid to upper 80s, but by tomorrow, it starts to feel like the 90s. And we're going to be feeling like close to 100 by Thursday and Friday. That's going to be the heat index. And so we're going to see a big jump in that. Let's talk a little bit more about what's happening there in the tropics. Of course, this is Tropical Storm Erin. As of the 11 o'clock advisory when it formed, moving west at 20 miles per hour with winds at 45 miles per hour. Gradually, as it moves across the Atlantic, we will see it gaining some strength by the middle of this week. Excuse me. It's likely to be our first hurricane of the season, and then potentially our first major hurricane by Saturday. So that still keeps it out here nowhere. I mean, it's not close to land even by Saturday. So as Chris was saying, it's definitely not going to impact your beach plans. But we'll talk a little bit more about where it could go after that in just a little while. We're definitely looking at August-like conditions really cropping up by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're hot again with a heat index and a chance for afternoon storms each day.
Elizabeth, thanks. Don't waste your money. Coming up at WRAL News at 4. Many young drivers heading to college are on the hunt for their next car. A list of the most reliable brands you can buy.
Plus at 5, not your standard training. The Nash County Sheriff's Office is enforcing new school security practices intended for SWAT team members. Later this afternoon, we'll explain how it'll help better protect students. What's still ahead this noon? Luggage liability. What should travelers do when they arrive at their destination but not their bags? 5 on your sides, Keely Arthur explains your money-saving rights. Plus,
discontinuing dial-up. Remember that sound? It's the end of an era when AOL officially disconnects from the World Wide Web.
summertime is the busiest travel season, according to AAA. And if you've had a less than smooth travel experience, you're certainly not alone. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, 5 in every 1,000 bags disappears at the airport, doesn't make it to its destination. 5 on your side's Keely Arthur shares the consumer safeguards you need to know about.
Listen up. If your bag is lost or goes missing, you're probably owed some money. Know your rights.
In fact, Alaska Airlines has a 20-minute guarantee. So if you don't get your bag within 20 minutes, Alaska Airlines will either give you a $25 discount for a future flight or 2,500 miles. But no matter what airline you're on, file a claim, usually online, right away. If your bag is delayed, airlines must reimburse you for basics like toiletries and basic clothing while you're waiting for your bags to arrive. Make sure you keep all your receipts and don't splurge. They'll only cover essentials, not luxury items. If your bag is delayed for more than 12 hours on a domestic flight or 15 on an international flight, you should be able to get a refund for whatever you paid to check your bag. If your bag is not found, the airline needs to reimburse you up to $4,700 per bag on a domestic flight and around $1,700 for an international flight.
And remember, if your bag is truly missing, the airline will cover much of what's inside of it, but they aren't required to cover certain items like cash, jewelry, even electronics. So it's best to keep those things with you in your carry-on, purse, or wallet. Keely Arthur, 5 on your side.
Here's a live look at Lake Gaston. Some beautiful puffy clouds there right now. A few showers are in our forecast for the afternoon. Plus, we're watching a developing system in the tropics. Elizabeth returns with the look at who's most likely to see rain today.
Before that, we have your winning NC Education lottery numbers on your screen right now. We'll be right back.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
The countdown is on to a high-stakes summit Friday between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The White House says the meeting will take place in Alaska.
So far, though, no other specifics have been released. NBC's Garrett Hake reports.
The White House this morning preparing for a high-stakes presidential summit in the latest attempt to broker a ceasefire in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine.
We're going to have a meeting with Russia.
President Trump announcing he accepted an invitation to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The leaders later announcing the summit would take place Friday in Alaska. Mr. Trump suggesting Ukraine will have to give up land for peace.
There'll be some swapping of territories. to the betterment of both.
Over the weekend, Vice President J.D. Vance traveling to London to huddle with Ukraine's European allies to discuss Ukraine's peace proposals, even as Russia continued its assault on Ukrainian cities. A top Trump ally sharing some of the president's thinking ahead of the meeting.
The goal for me, and I think President Trump, is to end it forever. You'll have some land swaps, but only after you have security guarantees to Ukraine to prevent Russia from doing this again. You need to tell Putin what happens if he does it a third time.
But Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who sources say the White House is considering inviting to the summit, rejecting the idea of ceding any territory to Russia. And yesterday, Zelensky responding to, he says, more attacks from Russia, and saying Russia's intention is to deceive America. The summit will cap off President Trump's months-long evolution on the war. He began his second term with a promise to end the war on his first day in office. The next month, he had an Oval Office shouting match with Zelensky.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards.
But as the war dragged on and the casualties mounted, President Trump publicly lost patience with Putin, threatening additional sanctions and tariffs on Russia's trading partners.
We get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
As Garrett Haake reporting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is defending his new military offensive in Gaza. Netanyahu declared that Israel has no choice but to finish the job. Thousands of protesters are concerned that plan to expand the fighting in the Gaza Strip could put the lives of those remaining hostages at risk. Israelis are pushing Netanyahu to pursue a ceasefire that would see the remaining hostages released.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, we continue to follow that breaking news out of Pittsburgh, where there was an explosion at a steel plant. This is a live look at the scene. We have confirmed this afternoon at least one person has been confirmed dead. Multiple others are hurt in this. Some are still unaccounted for. Multiple medical helicopters have been called to this scene. At least 5 people were transported to hospitals. Officials confirming crews are also searching for people who may be trapped underneath rubble right now. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro said his administration is in touch with local officials in that area as they continue to respond to this explosion. Again, a live look over the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant near Pittsburgh. This is a developing situation. We'll bring you the latest as we have it.
Today, we expect to get a clearer view of what it will take to repair this giant sinkhole that shut down a road in Apex. Olive Chapel Road collapsed from the flash flooding last week. An update is expected to come later today from the DOT. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey explains how town leaders are preparing for a repair process that could take months.
Today, we're expecting to get an update from NCDOT about this huge sinkhole here. Now, we've been staying on top of the repair process here on Olive Chapel Road since the sinkhole formed last week. Check out this map of where the road is closed here in Apex. You can even take a closer look at the sinkhole in this video from Drone 5. NCDOT says a failed drain pipe that was already scheduled to be replaced is what caused this. Apex Town Council member Terry Mahaffey says he's hoping they can temporarily open part of the street. Drivers are now forced to use nearby neighborhoods as detours. Mahaffey explains the impact of last week's storms.
This event was massive. It was measured as over a 200-year event in Apex. And that means when so much water is falling so quickly, whether it's pre-development, post-development, the water can't be absorbed fast enough.
NCDOT says they're planning to reopen the road at the end of November, but this process could take much longer. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Apex.
This morning, administrators at Fayetteville State University dedicated their newest residence hall. WRAL was there for the ribbon cutting for the Bronco Pride Residence Hall. During this morning's celebration, the chancellor acknowledged faculty, lawmakers, and community partners whose contributions made the project possible.
It could not come at a better time because of the enrollment growth that we have. We're already maxed to capacity, and so we're happy about that, and we're going to make sure that we have a good return on investment here at Fayetteville State University.
A new student housing check-in is Friday. Returning students check in Sunday. First day of class is Tuesday, August 19th.
The Wake County school system is making some major changes as to how it serves students with disabilities. District leaders plan to provide more training for staff and to make sure all staff know what their roles are. The changes come 3 years after an independent review found that schools' relationships with parents were deteriorating. They said not enough staff knew enough about working with students with disabilities. WRAL's Education Insider dug into the changes and the report behind it all. You can read about it at WRAL.com. School resource officers in Nash County are getting ready for the start of the new school year. Sheriff Keith Stone is holding a joint session with the SBI today for mandatory behavioral threat assessment training. This comes just 1 week after the officers completed training that focused on students with autism.
This morning, a federal judge denied the Trump administration's request to unseal grand jury materials from the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking case. The Justice Department wants the grand jury transcripts and exhibits released from cases involving Maxwell's associate, Jeffrey Epstein. The judge says much of that material has already been made public. Maxwell is serving a 20-year federal prison sentence for helping Epstein groom and sexually abuse the underage girls. Visitors to the White House will not be able to see the official portrait of Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and his father, George H.W. Bush. That's because they've been moved from the entryway to a far less visible location at the top of a restricted staircase. The relocation of the portraits breaks with tradition that gives recent presidents prominent placement.
Delicious and healthy. Why eating 2 eggs a day can reduce your cholesterol.
And herbicide in your cup of joe, the traces of it found in coffee, and what the toxin does for your health. Remember, you can watch WRAL News live anytime on WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device. Although we're still enjoying the summer sunshine, fall allergy season is right around the corner. Medical professionals recommend people who suffer from fall allergies start taking allergy medications about 2 weeks before symptoms typically begin. Limit time outdoors when pollen counts are high, and when you come indoors, take a shower and keep your windows closed. Eating 2 eggs per day can actually reduce LDL cholesterol more than an egg-free diet. LDL is considered that bad cholesterol. Experts previously thought diets heavy in eggs made bad cholesterol outweigh the good. Well, now they say what matters is how much saturated fat is in your diet. Researchers say instead of cutting out eggs, consider swapping out your bacon and sausage for even more eggs.
I will take mine scrambled, please. A new investigation found caffeinated coffees are mostly free of toxins. Studies have found drinking about 3 cups of black coffee a day provides health benefits, but testing did find traces of a worrisome herbicide called glyphosate. Glyphosate has been linked to hormone disruptions and neurotoxic effects. In addition to glyphosate, testing found some coffees also contain small amounts of phthalates. Studies have linked phthalates to asthma, childhood obesity, and cancer. The U.S. Postal Service is cracking down on shipments of unregulated vapes, a move that could boost sales for big tobacco. The agency wrote a letter to Demand Vape, a New York-based distributor, blocking it from using its services. New York City authorities alleged the company shipped vapes that did not have FDA approval and violated a local flavor ban. The move stands to benefit companies that have fought against unregulated vapes, mostly from China.
Prime location. Get ready for Space Race Part 2. Why the next country to land on the moon could have dibs on heating it.
Winter forecast. The Farmer's Almanac is out with this year's prediction. Will we be buried in snow or see an early spring?
It's a 21st century space race. The Trump administration is expected to announce plans to send a nuclear reactor to the moon. But do they legally have a right to do that? C.B. Cotton spoke with an expert to find out who actually owns the moon.
The Trump administration is expected to roll out plans to have a nuclear reactor on the moon. Interim NASA Administrator Sean Duffy says the U.S. is behind in this space race.
We're behind, right? If we're going to engage in the race to the moon. We have to marshal all of our resources.
But who actually owns the moon? Experts say the U.S. has legal backing on their expected mission.
Everybody owns the moon. There's a treaty that was signed in 1967, which calls all of outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies in space, the province of all humankind.
Michelle Hanlon, the executive director of the Center for Air and Space Law at the University of Mississippi, says she supports the plan. Unlike Earth, the moon has 14 days of daytime and 14 days of nighttime, which means it doesn't have solar power for 2 whole weeks at a time.
We need to find a way to keep our humans warm, to make sure our humans are able to sustain life. Nuclear power is the best way to do that.
And the clock is ticking with China and Russia to see who can get there first. While everyone has the right to use and explore any part of the moon, the country or company to get there the quickest with a reactor has the most advantage to get a prime location.
I'm there first. I can say, hey, the treaty says due regard. And I'm telling you right now, due regard means you should not come within 5 miles of me.
CB Cotton reporting. Hanlon says the plans shouldn't be seen as a territorial claim or a declaration of war, but as growing infrastructure into the next era of space exploration.
Remember the meteorite that caused a stir earlier this summer? Geologists say it is 20 million years older than the Earth. On June 26, people reported the bright fireball in the sky from Georgia to North Carolina. The space rock ripped through the roof of a home in Georgia, creating booms heard by people in the area. Fragments were analyzed, and experts conclude that the meteorite formed 4.5 billion years ago. How's that for perspective? Now, don't complain about temperatures in the 90s. The latest edition of the Farmer's Almanac says to expect another cold and snowy winter. However, it will not be as bone-chilling as last year. The editor says to expect more of an average, old-fashioned winter. Temperatures should cool down in late fall, then it will snow, then warm up slightly, then get cold again. The almanac predicts winter weather could stick around through April. That's all fine and dandy, but my money's on the WRAL Weather Almanac, rooted in science and data. And we're months away from snow. Right now, we are in the peak of hurricane season, and we're going to get our first one of the season.
That's right. The Almanac is kind of entertaining to read, but certainly not based on science. We're not able to forecast, really much past 7 days, certainly not an entire season. We take a look at the tropics. We wish we could do that because everybody wants to know where Aaron is headed. So Aaron just formed in the 11 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center, and it's sitting off the coast of Africa right now. So it has a long way to go before it reaches land. Of course, it's headed off to the west at 20 miles per hour right now with winds at 45 miles per hour. As the track continues almost due west for several days, all the way out until around the middle of the week. By the time we get to Wednesday, it's likely to be a hurricane, be the first hurricane of the season, and then it could become the first major hurricane of the season. Notice it begins a little bit of a northward trek there, more of a northwesterly track, and so it misses the Leeward Islands potentially. Even the fan is nowhere in the frame there of the Leeward Islands. So we see what happens next with that system. Of course, a lot of things can happen, and we can look at the computer models now, but things change fairly rapidly. And I know you've seen that before. We're watching the computer models, and then things shift with the atmosphere, and things change. But this is a look at one possibility of what could happen. We have high pressure sitting in the middle of the Atlantic right now. High pressure systems rotate clockwise. So that high could push that storm along, which is what we're seeing with the track from the Hurricane Center, and then sweep it northward along with a kick from a trough or a cold front that could push it out to sea. And that's what our main models are doing. The European model, the American model are keeping this off the coast of the United States, and that would be about a week and a half from now. So at this point, there's really nothing to be concerned about, but we do recommend that you keep checking in, especially if you've had any plans along the coast or, rip current danger issues if you're, headed to the beaches. All right, let's talk about what's happening right now. Just a few scattered showers, mainly in our northern counties at the moment. Person County seeing some scattered rain currently, and we're going to continue to see these waves of rain moving up from south to north. It's a much more tropical air mass. It feels muggy, it feels sticky out there, and our chance of rain will increase as we head through the afternoon. Some of those showers will produce some heavy downpours, and so there could be a few places where we see some flooding. It would be isolated isolated. That flooding risk is on the low end, but we could see the same thing again tomorrow. Tomorrow, a 50% chance. And then a 40 to 50% chance really all the way through Friday. So this is going to feel much more like August. Our temperatures will be hotter. We'll climb to almost 90 by Wednesday. It will be in the 90s then through Saturday. And almost 90 on Sunday as well. So feeling like August, we're going to see a heat index, especially Thursday and Friday, that puts us up near triple digits, but not likely to be heat advisory. It's just going to be really hot and steamy like we expect for August.
Yes, we do. Elizabeth, thanks. Ditching dial-up. After decades of connecting users to the internet, AOL is shutting down. Wrap things up with a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today. 2 people were bitten by a fox in Moore County this morning. It happened near Midway Road in Aberdeen around 8 a.m. A woman and man were bit in separate incidents just a short distance apart. Both people were taken to the hospital for their injuries and are getting a series of shots. Officials are now looking into whether the fox was rabid.
We now know who will take over as the new sheriff of Cumberland County. He is Major Jonathan Morgan. Sheriff Ennis Wright led the department for the last several years and retired in June. Wright was named to the top spot when Sheriff Moose Butler retired and won re-election in 2022.
Today we're expecting to get an update from NCDOT about a sinkhole on Olive Chapel Road in Apex. It formed during flash flooding last week. Town leaders say they are hoping to reopen a portion of that road. NCDOT plans to fully reopen the road in late November, but the repair process could take even longer. The overall project is estimated to cost more than $2 million.
Understanding variations in heat can help cities adapt to increasingly hot temperatures. Researchers are trying to gather data about how cities can adapt their infrastructure to be better prepared for the possible impacts. Using special sensors on bikes and electric vehicles, researchers track changes in temperature across several cities. The real-time mapping efforts revealed parks with shade can be more than 5 degrees cooler than neighboring streets.
If we don't do the research now to try to understand what works and what doesn't work, we can't inform the next generation of materials, the next generation of strategies, and we'll be stuck where we are today.
Officials also hope their findings can help other communities reduce the risk of heat-related illnesses for their residents.
A relic of the internet in the early 1990s and 2000s is going away now. AOL is shutting down the dial-up internet service that once was a symbol of internet connectivity. I thought they did away with this a long time ago. AOL is now part of Yahoo. It says the dial-up service, dialer software, and Shield browser will be discontinued September 30th. Interesting fact here, the voice of AOL's iconic greeting, "You've got mail," was a long-time North Carolina resident. He died last fall at the age of 74.
All month long, we are helping area animals find forever homes during our Clear the Shelters adoption event. Connie's Kittens is one of this year's participating shelters. Your cuddly cat is waiting. To learn more and to locate a shelter near you, go to WRAL.com/shelters.
Beefing up security. The Nash County Sheriff's Office is enforcing new school security practices. Coming up on WRAL News at 4, the measures that are entirely new for our area.
NBC News Daily is next on WRAL. Your next local news update in 30 minutes.
And you can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Get out there and have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air channel 34 and Spectrum channel 1257.